Can you see my tan still? I hope it's not gone already. Hey, what's good, fellow investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from March 3rd to the 10th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn more about this investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. And there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. Try to think of these videos as a time capsule. I try to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the U.S. cannabis industry, identify top U.S. MSOs that you keep seeing pop up that you think will be worth more in the future than they are now based on their current market caps and the growth potential from new markets coming online, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. Today we're going to start with arguably the most important tweet that President Biden has made to date, as I don't believe any tweet has had this many views, likes, retweets, or engagement from him or the admin, and so that's a big deal. Clearly, the writing has been on the wall all along, and it's just a matter of them putting the feelers out there and realizing that this is what the people want, especially when we know from polls that 91% of Americans agree with ending prohibition outright. And so what are we waiting for? Of course, the DEA to respond to HHS's Schedule 3 recommendation. When do we want it? Now? When are we going to get it? I don't know, and it does seem like the timeline keeps moving forward. But it's worth noting that I think the last video I made was before the Germany news, and fortunately, this time around, Germany actually kept their word and did what they said they're going to do. So let's hope the momentum follows and the U.S. does the same. But so coming from Julie, NBC News, and she's one of the very few reputable mainstream sources that we have for cannabis. And so on March 7th, she shared scoop. In his State of the Union, Biden's expected to emphasize that no one should go to jail for cannabis-related offenses. He's also expected to say he asked his cabinet to evaluate the rescheduling of cannabis. This would be the first time he speaks on this issue in such a setting. Nats Vertig sharing a clip of what he was supposed to say. So obviously, State of the Union happened, and he did mention something. Biden touts cannabis policy changes in State of the Union. We're seeing more claims made and actions actually following through. So more promising than we've seen before, at least based on the 3 years of empty lies. Now, all that to say, you can pause to read for GMR's take on the State of the Union if you haven't been following. Otherwise, all links will be in the comments. But we do have a clip. It's a short one. Only 13 seconds of the spotlight was given to cannabis, but it did seem to get one of the loudest reactions out of all statements that he made. Now, just credit to Patient Momentum here for pointing out that most people are skeptical of the House Speaker Mike Johnson and getting any safer cannabis legislation passed, but when you see him nod his head and sort of grin at the end, that made me very happy to see. And so let me know what you thought in the comments. And then, of course, Kamala just ultimately getting up to clap every 20 seconds, doing more work at the State of the Union than she's done all year. But yeah, let's let him take it away.
Thousands of convictions for the mere possession. It is not what should be jailed for simply using or having on the record.
You love to see that. And then, of course, Biden's going to mumble some of it, but that is what happened. And then, so we got this from BNN Bloomberg. The DEA can save the withering cannabis industry. Will it? Fresh off the press as of 18 hours ago. And so what does it cover? Most of what I've covered in my channel. Talks of rescheduling cannabis from 1 to 3 has overtaken talks of complete legalization, because while we all want descheduling, the U.S. government will never give up full control, hence the incremental reform. And this all comes after the August recommendation by HHS that cannabis is medicine. That's the U.S. government admitting it and telling the DEA that they ought to move it to Schedule 3. And once that happens, it will take time. We're all waiting on the DEA to respond. And then basically there will be a 60-day comment period. But them doing it around April fits the timeline of getting that done before the election. And it's an election year. That's when we typically always see cannabis running. So, of course, I'm speculating, thinking out loud. None of this is advice. But take from this article and all my videos from what you will. Link in the comments. Ultimately, what it's saying, though, is that if we don't get Schedule 3, the Tier 1s are just going to benefit the most from consolidation. And we obviously want something after all this time, and we expect to get it. But just wanted to share that. And from the Dales Report, Don Murphy, Schedule 3 is a lock. And so, hey, that's more bullish, and we like to hear that. And while we want to know what gives Don so much confidence, the full link to this interview will be in the comments, but let's see what he has to say after the State of the Union address and what makes him so bullish.
From my perspective, yes, Schedule 3 is a lock. And I'll tell you what else is kind of like bumped up there. Safe banking, literally like got the nod, okay, from the speaker. There's the speaker.
That was the best part.
Sitting behind the president, and when the president made his remarks about no one should be in jail for possession, it was perceptible. Like you could see.
He wasn't mad. He seemed to be like, and that is part of the plan. And that's in the cards. We're going to make that happen. And as we move towards 420 and whatnot, an update from Don again. If safe banking is to pass this year before the election, though no one will campaign on it, July is their best best chance. Early voting starts in September. Congress is out August and October. This time soon really does mean sooner than later, in his honest opinion. Oh, Don, thank you for maintaining your humor throughout all this. So I'll put the link to the calendar in the comments if you wanted to check that out. But again, take from this what you will. It is still speculation from Don making his best guesses based on the puzzle pieces he's seen moving around. But we love that he's more optimistic than ever. And especially this time might be different because never has the U.S. had interest payments of over $1 trillion on their debt. And they need cash bad. And so I feel we're getting to that tipping point. Let me know what you think. Obviously, I could be wrong, but I want to be optimistic as well, and I do believe it's happening at some point this year. And while Do the Right Thing, another very clutch account for sharing good information. New York Times reporter is saying the timeline for rescheduling now has an estimated timeline of first half of 2024. Not the first time we're seeing a can kick down the road, Germany, but they did get what they said they would get done a few weeks ago, and that should go into effect in April. And so the stage has never been set better, and of course, it's an election year, baby. Green Market Report sources saying this is not coming before April. Schedule 3 is still the target, but the timing, as always, is uncertain. Though we have reason to believe that the timing will sort of line up with either Schedule 3 happening, hopefully, before or around the election. Let me know in the comments if you think differently and why, but again, I haven't been following as closely since I was on vacation the last 2 weeks, but I'm doing my best to catch up. And so with that, another clutch share from Do the Right Thing, as this is reason to believe why Don is right in saying that SAFE has a chance again, especially after seeing the House Speaker in the back give a nod when others would think that he wouldn't be open to it. From Do the Right Thing, we first have to fund the government because the debt's getting out of control and they need cash. Back to that last point, the supplemental is very important, but after that, you will see us turn to many of the bills that we passed, the SAFER Act, Safety on the Rails, Recoup, and so many other things. Well, you haven't passed anything yet. And again, I know these are just more words from Schmuck. It could very well be more fluff, but just sharing that because this time, I think it's different because they do got to fund the government. And so with that, some studies just to highlight why cannabis prohibition should have ended decades ago or should have never even started in the first place. New study reveals cannabis users walk more, challenging lazy stereotypes. And while we've seen many like this in the past, this one comes as of March 5th, 2024. Overturning lazy stereotypes for sure. A recent study from the University of Texas at Dallas and Ohio University has shed light on an interesting trend. Individuals who use cannabis tend to walk for exercise more frequently than both non-users and e-cigarette users. And this revelation, published in the Journal of Preventive Medicine Reports, contradicts the common stereotype of cannabis consumers being less physically active. And so, while not wanting to make this video too long, I invite you to pause to read if you're interested, and the link will be in the comments if you wanted to read further, but some snippets here if you wanted to go through it. While from the Hill, nearly 80% of Americans are now living in a county with legal cannabis dispensary report. While California has more dispensaries than any other state, but another wild fact about California is that per capita, they don't have nearly enough dispensaries to legally supply the demand properly, hence the trouble that they've had, despite policy and high taxes being a big issue there as well, that if you repeal that, that goes a long way. Either way, just wanting to share this story at a glance. I invite you to pause to read if you're interested. Although cannabis is illegal under federal law, 54% of Americans live in a state where cannabis rec use is legal. 74% of Americans live in a state where cannabis is legal for either medicinal or rec use, and then 79 now live in a county with at least one cannabis dispensary. And so it's getting normalized, whether people like it or not. And so more here if you wanted to pause to read. And the hardest part is just re-educating people and getting through the past propaganda and helping them see the light. Well, from Normal survey data, 1 in 6 middle-aged adults acknowledge using cannabis. From February 29th, approximately 1 in 6 middle-aged adults acknowledge having consumed cannabis within the past year, according to survey data published in the Journal of Gerontologist. This link will be in the comments as well. Small sample size, as always, because that's just how we have to do cannabis studies while it's stuck in a ridiculous scheduling, but the study's findings are consistent with those and others concluding that cannabis use among older Americans continues to increase and outpace all other age groups. And so more here if you wanted to sort of read about the nitty-gritty details of the study. Links in the comments. I probably mentioned that already. But this one from BJC, supporting gut health with medicinal cannabis in people with advanced cancer, potential benefits and challenges. And so while this one is a little bit older, published last year, October of 2023, I don't believe I've shared anything related to cannabis and gut health, so wanted to leave this here. You can pause to read. The link will be in the comments, but main thing is This whole review will provide a brief update on the current state of evidence on medicinal cannabis in cancer care and outline the potential benefits and challenges of using medicinal cannabis during active cancer therapy. And so appreciate studies like this being done, but just highlighting that if we could deschedule 50 years ago, we'd be so much further ahead, I think, in actual public health and understanding biology and how the endocannabinoid system works with us, as opposed to pretending it doesn't exist. Nonsense. And so with that, from global news out of Canada, typically you got to be wary of anything out of global because our government or our media is mostly government funded, but this one seems to be legit. As our Canadians swapping alcohol for weed, what new data shows? Yes, right? Another benefit to ending prohibition that most people didn't expect. Rec cannabis sales by provincial authorities increased by 15.8% year over year. A Stats Canada breakdown says that works out for every Canadian of legal age spending about $150 per year on cannabis products. Meanwhile, the volume of alcohol sales has declined for the second consecutive year. According to Stats Canada, alcohol sales based on volume fell by 1.1%, or 3.1 million liters in 2022 to 2023. On average, Canadians of legal drinking age consume 9.2 standard beverages per week, down from 9.5 the previous year. And so people are drinking less because we have a healthier, safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative that often helps people drink less as well. So more here if you wanted to pause to read. This might blow your mind. And so I found this on Ben Kovler, CEO of Green Thumb's profile, when I was trying to pull up the earnings reports, and from Richard Hanania, and it comes from a study, and the study is in here, antidepressants dispensing in U.S. adolescents and youth. Crazy study, but highlighting the chokehold that Big Pharma has on the medical industry and how, unfortunately, it's been captured and abused and taken advantage of. The rate of antidepressant use among 12 to 25-year-olds increased 66% over 6 years. That is insane. That is 6 years, not 60 years, literally from 2016 to 2022. Between January 16th and December 2022, the monthly antidepressant dispensing rate increased 63.3%, from 2,575 to 4,284. Like, try and tell me there's not an incentive to get kids on pills and not have them live healthy lifestyles. Like, it's fucking mind-blowing. And so another reason why I think so much lobbying has gone to keeping cannabis illegal for a long time is to facilitate this. And fuck, this is so unfortunate. We have a lot of work to do to right these wrongs, but first step is ending cannabis prohibition at least, or getting that next incremental reform that will help normalize the industry further. So with that, from Springer Link, cannabis and psychosis, are we any closer to understanding the relationship between such things? Now, this is an older one, but one of the bigger studies or reviews of the data that has shown that cannabis and schizophrenia have no correlation, but just something I found interesting when I was reading the summary, and so a link will be in the comments as always, but the evidence for cannabis acting as a causal factor for schizophrenia has so far not been established. Boom, we know that, great. A lot of prohibitionists try to say that it has. The remaining hills that prohibitionists seem to want to die on, but get this, research needs to extend beyond males drawn from Western countries. It's almost like they're trying to find a narrative to say that young men using cannabis are more prone to schizophrenia than any other group. It's like, well, why would you not have a diverse sample of men and women of all ages? Again, it almost looks like they're trying to frame it and find studies that they can say, hey, young men using cannabis are a threat. Because yeah, if we are to advance knowledge and understanding of the link between cannabis use and schizophrenia, we need to research humans, not just males from Western countries. I just found that hilarious. Let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, the link will be in there if you wanted to read more. And so with that, back to some of the finance news from Wheat Street 420. New IIROC short data, massive short covering on Canadian exchanges. To me, this seems very promising. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. But ideally, we've seen the shorts get extremely cocky, and now they seem to be backpedaling, hopefully in line with the State of the Union and the fact that we might get something in the next few months. But with that, from Benjamin A. Smith, also, if you've been watching or following this industry for a few years now, you've seen a large hedge fund manager by the name of Dougie Cass get bullish and then get bearish and then get really rotten with people about it, and then get bullish again and then get bearish and then get really rotten with people about it. It's hilarious watching some people in their mood swings. All that to say, Benjamin A. Smith, who writes for the Dales Report, this just hit my inbox courtesy of Seabreeze Partners Management, and it appears Doug Cass is making a significant directional call here. So take this as you will. He has reason to believe the Schedule 3 catalyst is going to come, which would mean the DEA accepting the recommendation, admitting also that cannabis is science, and then, having the comment period and taking the steps to eventually do that. On top of that, though, of course, we'll find out about Florida, we'll find out about SAFER, and then the rescheduling does remove 280E and increases profits and bottom lines for these MSOs overnight once that does go away. But as you can tell, he's optimistic, and he's currently moving a large size position into the space. Now, if something doesn't happen in the next 3 months, we might see him get bearish and then get rotten again. But folks, let's hope this time is different. If you think it is, let me know why in the comments. But with that, MSO reports, now these are older since I've been away. I'm not going to dive into them, just going to share them. These links are in the comments, but what I will get into a little bit is the post from Cannavestments. And so thank you, Cannavestments, for these summaries, as he has a financial background and can help explain these earnings reports like, for us simpletons. And so strong start to the Q4 earnings season from GTI growth with revenue and margin expansion ahead of expectations, continued cash flow generation, further share buybacks and debt paydown with CapEx set to reduce in 2024 and exposure to key growth states. Lots of opportunities ahead. And so more here if you wanted to pause to read. Now, sometimes he does add more information if he finds it down here. So additional notes, I'll share that as well. Otherwise, these links will be in the comments if you want to check it out. And so Trulieve, they reported theirs, also strong showing from them. That link will be in the comments, but just jumping right to the review from Cannavestments. Trulieve continues the Q4 earnings hot streak with a return to growth and margin expansion well ahead of expectations. It's been a long time coming, but we love to see it. Good job, Kim. Strong cash flow and favorable tax dynamics allowed the company to pay down debt dramatically whilst shoring up the balance sheet ahead of potential key adult use catalysts. And so no follow-up comments down here, so just this snippet. You can pause to read. While moving on to Curaleaf's, Trulieve also opened a express medical dispensary in Palm Bay, Florida. So continuing to open dispensaries. I don't think you can even go into this one. It seems like it's just a drive-through, which is fucking awesome. So good to see them again, keeping their head down and focusing on what they can control, expanding their footprint ahead of us finding out in April from the Florida Supreme Court if the 2024 adult use initiative will be on the ballot, and chances are it will be, because fortunately the Attorney General Moody's arguments were dog shit and very unconstitutional. So chances are Florida's going to get that big W, but we'll find out sooner than later. I can't believe it's already March 9th and April is like 3 weeks away. But with that, Curaleaf reports fourth quarter and full year ended 2023 results. Not as nice a showing as Green Thumb and Trulieve, so it just means a bit more time for them to kind of get everything consolidated and make their scale very profitable. But with that, from Cannavestments, an improved Q4 showing from Curaleaf with results ahead of expectations and improved margins and cash flow. Although a bloated balance sheet still holds the company back, market optimization over the past year definitely has paid dividends, with more needed in 2024 to pay down their debts. And so more here, so I'll just share the first one if you wanted to pause to read this one. Of course, links are in the comments, but I'll scroll down and just share this note. Something on their balance sheet or in their K10, it looks like. So you can check that out if you're interested. Mainly if you're a Curaleaf shareholder. That's the deal that it's related to. And so last one was Verano, though, as they reported also. Verano announces fourth quarter and full year 2023 financial results. So a little breakdown here if you wanted to pause to read. Link is in the comments. And then thank you, Cannavestments, for the breakdown. A solid Q4 showing from Verano brands in line with consensus, although tempered slightly with lower than expected Q1 guidance and relative performance compared to GTI and Trulieve. Cash flow remains strong, providing optionality ahead with potential adult use initiatives on the horizon in key states like Florida. And so any other notes? Nope, just this one bit here. So you can pause to read if you're interested. And that's mostly it for the MSOs. I believe there might be one more story. Yes, Air Wellness Cannabis Dispensary celebrates opening of relocated Tallahassee retail location. So they didn't open a new location, but I believe they've relocated to what we would be led to believe is a better spot for whatever reason. And we know that Air, one of the front runners in Florida with a lot of dispensaries, and they're capturing market share ahead of that 2024 ballot news. And so it's good to see them doing that. While from Green Market Report, 280 isn't killing all cannabis companies. To highlight, Viridian cited cash flows produced by some multi-state operators, including Green Thumb, Trulieve, and Verano. And so worst case scenario, we don't get Schedule 3 or SAFE, which is very unlikely again at this point. These would be the front runners, or at least the most attractive assets, just based on their ability to produce free cash flow. While Viridian's analysis also concluded that several other MSOs have modest free cash flow as of now and appear to be stable in the current environment, but are constrained in their capital spending and would be able to grow more if 280E was eliminated. And so, of course, who'd be helped the most with 280E gone? Curaleaf, Cresco, Air Wellness, Ascend Wellness Holdings, Glasshouse Brands, TerraSend Corp, and Schwazy. while 3 other MSOs are struggling mightily and may not be able to pay off their existing debt, even with 280E relief. And so while I did buy more cannabis shares, the info will be in the description of just how many shares I added. I forgot to add it into the video. But if for whatever reason we don't get Schedule 3 and no safer, and they don't manage to do something that, saves them, that might be my most recent lottery ticket going under. But those 3 have more significant issues out of the rest of them. So folks, take from that what you will, but this is a nice list to highlight who is the safest investment versus the most risky investment out of the US MSOs ahead of this year that could be very, very, very big for the industry. Many reasons why. I don't need to go through the catalysts, as we'll get through them, and this is a great post to highlight. So thank you, Sammy J, for sharing. Here is one of the more comprehensive and succinct theses I've come across on the catalyst ahead for US cannabis. Great timing based on what I was saying a few seconds ago by the investment advisory firm iVest. And so as always, take these with a grain of salt, because while these investment firms do their research and they come to the most logical conclusions, unfortunately, this is an industry where we're relying on the government to finally do their fucking job after so long, right? And so we got federal levers, state levers, industry levers, but if there was any other argument for this year ahead, especially because it's an election year and cannabis always runs in election years, there is a lot of good things to look forward to given all of this. And so let me know in the comments what you think about this, any that might be missing from this. But again, we'll have to just wait for time to play out and for things to unfold. While another one of those from BDSA forecasts global legal cannabis sales to hit $58 billion in 2028. This possibly if we get Schedule 3 and everything goes according to plan. And so, while I always recommend to take these with a big grain of salt, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Just going to scroll down a little bit if you wanted to pause to read. Full link is in the comments. But with that, we'd rather see more, why am I blanking on the word? Articles like this than not. So from Barron's, U.S. cannabis prices showing signs of stabilizing. And so this is really all that is featured. But multi-state operators who have reported quarterly earnings so far this year are speaking to more stabilized environment. Industry-wide sales across the 13 states tracked by BDSA were down 6.8% month over month in Jan, as to be expected because December is the record month and then January falls back because people still have cannabis from December due to seasonality. They were up 4.8% year over year, so the industry is still growing. And again, it's just a matter of figuring out where we are in the cycle, buying your ticket, and then taking the ride going forward. And so with that, we've got one from the Weed CFO. Thank you for sharing this one. January is always a slow month, but here's how it looked compared to the past 2 years. A decline in the mature markets and nice growth in others. And what we're looking forward to is more new markets coming on, like Ohio, after seeing what Maryland and Missouri were capable of doing, plus other markets like New Jersey and Illinois, opening more dispensaries, therefore reducing the current bottleneck they're having and seeing more growth in sales there. And so the exceptions are Michigan, looks like the mature market from the numbers, but still continues to grow, and New York still no growth because the communists just handicapped that industry, and it's been a very sad case to watch over time. And so is there any more down here? Here's how it looked versus December. So I'll share with you this one first. So this is Jan 2024 total sales in each state versus Jan 2023 total sales versus Jan 2022. And again, the source is BDSA. And then going to bring you down to versus December of 2023 as well. So link is in the comments as always. Well, with that, some state sales, connoisseurs.io, thank you for sharing this as New Mexico cannabis sales, including February 2024. Good to see that they bounced back up from January as to be expected. We see a record month. We see a bit of a slump. We see sales again. And that's at least one less day than January, or 2 less days. And so with that, total medical sales for February, 12.3. Adult use sales, 35.6. Again, through 1,050 dispensaries. The more dispensaries you have, the more legal sales, the more jobs, tax revenue, and all that good stuff in the legal economy. While total transactions, I don't know comparatively, but good to see over 1 million there. While I was trying to get Chicago's data, or not Chicago, Illinois' data, but February's numbers are not up yet. And so once we see updated March 9th or 10th or probably 11th from next week, then we will see February's numbers. And I imagine that those are going to be up from January's, though still down from December's record. And so with that, from connoisseurs.io, Florida Office of Medical Cannabis Use, their data this past week from March 1st to the 7th, visualized. So thanks connoisseurs.io for doing this for us. Now just to scroll down quickly, 3 new locations were opened, and the qualified patient count now up to 875,470. And so taking a quick look at the visuals, Florida market share, total flower sales in ounces by company for this past week alone. Good to see the breakdown. Pause to read. While total THC sales in milligrams by company for this past week. Nice to see Air in second place there. Pause to read as a proud Air shareholder. And then total CBD sales in milligrams by company. You can pause to read this past week. And then total dispensing locations by company. And of course, those with the most dispensaries stand to gain the most come 2025 once the adult use market in Florida eventually launches and turns on. Going to be amazing. And so with that, from CBS News, wanted to share because it's at least reminding us of the news that we're waiting on from Florida. If rec cannabis gets on November ballot, state could see high earnings. Oh yes, 21 million population in Florida, but also 100 million plus of tourism every single year. So you can pause to read if you're interested or you're not aware of what's going on, but I'm pretty sure I sort of explained this already earlier on in the video. But the fact that it's coming from CBS, we love that. And yeah, the main thing here is just to highlight what their medical market is already doing. Fortunately, because they allowed so many stores to open and there's not a bottleneck in Florida. Well, you know our old friend BDSA, the cannabis data company that tracks the revenue of licensed dispensaries. Now, before I read on, I just have to highlight that whoever wrote this article, they need to proofread their work, or they need to get their editor to actually proofread their work and not just say that they did it, because it's these silly little mistakes that unfortunately highlight the shitty quality of propaganda we get in these mainstream outlets and, you know, not accurate journalism just because of these little mistakes. So I digress. Just this year, medical cannabis sales in Florida is over 2.8 billion. Just this year from January to now? No way. If the rec use law clears the Supreme Court and 60% of voters in November, the company projects rec sales alone will be over 870 million. With a population of 21 million and 100 million plus tourists? No way. So it makes more sense that they mean just this year, med sales in Florida is at 870 million. And if the rec use law clears the Supreme Court and 60% of voters in November, the company projects rec sales of 2.8 billion in the first year. There you go. Fixed it for you. And so lots to look forward to. And we will find out in April, I believe the 1st, or is it the 11th? I don't know top of mind. But anyways, in less than a month from now, basically, we will find out if adult use is on the ballot, and all odds point to being yes. And so with that out of Virginia, an update: governor won't sign medical cannabis bill, but that may be the plan. Apparently that if, where is it? The legislation which has cleared both the Senate and the House of Delegates awaits Youngkin's signature, veto, or amendment. Under Virginia law, if Youngkin doesn't take action within 30 days after the legislature adjourns, the bill will automatically become law. That differs from other states where governors can prevent legislation from becoming law through an action known as a pocket veto. And so from my understanding, this still will require us waiting until 2025 for commercial market to launch. But these two companies seem to be the ones that will benefit the most from adult use. In Virginia, I believe also Green Thumb Industries should be in there too. But yeah, unfortunately, I still don't think it's a commercial market anytime soon, though I will update you once this actually goes into effect and we see Virginia get that passed. While Missouri opens second round of cannabis microbusiness license applications, love to see any sort of excuse to open more dispensaries and see Missouri drive more legal sales and crush it even more than they're already doing it. And so just to highlight, starting April 15th to the 29th, 48 microbusiness facilities and lots more coming. So if you're interested in what's happening in Missouri, you can pause to read. Otherwise, full link in the comments. Well, last few stories, just figured I'd share as I found them interesting. An FDA official, and so this came out February 28th, published 4 seconds ago. I don't know why that hasn't updated, because clearly February 28th is not 4 seconds ago. And so I wonder if that's just something that they can trigger in the back end of their website builder. I don't know. Anyways, but apparently FDA official says agency is actively exploring CBD regulations as it continues to monitor kratom. And so is it more beneficial to have the FDA regulating CBD so that it can hit mainstream shelves sooner than later? I don't know. Just thinking out loud. Would we rather just keep it unregulated? Let me know in the comments, but I think having some regulations around it, again, looser ones, but some regulations will help normalize the use of CBD as a potential medical benefit as well, sooner than later. While last thing I wanted to share from Colin Farian, student of the cannabis industry, much like we all are, and hey, it's been a very worthwhile and painful but necessary education, I think. Hawthorne spin-off plans walked back at Scott's Miracle Grow. Management warming up to the CapEx cycle returning in cannabis. And so, now I don't know what Hawthorne is, so I'll just admit that outright. If you know more about this and want to share some context, please do in the comments. But he says management warming up to the CapEx cycle returning in cannabis. And while Scott's Miracle Grow, from my understanding, is a big player in the cannabis space because they have large ownership positions in some of the hydroponic manufacturers. Think Home Depot for cannabis that supplies any cannabis cultivator. And so, of course, when the price of cannabis is high and valuations are high, like we saw in previous election years, these companies benefit, as does Scott's Miracle-Gro. Hence why I think Hawthorne has to do with maybe financial management and helping companies in the space. Again, I'm not exactly sure, but all this to say, it seems like this came from a Scott's Miracle-Gro 45th Annual Institutional Investor Conference, and an analyst, Joseph Altobello, asked this question. So, if we're here a year from now, if you are a betting man, is Hawthorne still a part of Scott's? Is it merged into another entity? And so from the Executive VP, CFO, and Chief Administrative Officer, Matthew Garth at Scott's Miracle-Gro, wow, that's just, I say wow, because it's profound that, one, I'm not a betting man, I'm very deliberate. Two, if we were talking 4 months ago, I would have said likelihood that Hawthorne is out of Scott's, essentially meaning that maybe this part of Scott's that worked in cannabis previously, they would have sold it out and be gone. Today, with everything that we know and with the overall state of the market, I'd say Hawthorne is in a leadership position in developing the future of the industry. Love hearing that, which could mean it's either part of someone else within a year's time, or we've added to the base and grown scale and the current profitability in that time. Now, we know that these are still salesmen, professional salesmen, any executive of any company, so take it with a grain of salt. As much as I like hearing this, I again got to try and step back, remind the emotions to chill, and think of this logically. So there's a deal to be done. It's just whether it's in or out of Scott's Miracle-Gro. But to add to that, so I feel really good, believe it or not, about the position of Hawthorne, what we're doing in the overall hydroponics business. And it's just, there's some timing components here as to where it goes and how we partner with people to optimize value in this period is going to be very important, because once it comes back, we've already seen it. Anytime someone mentions rescheduling, descheduling, any type of positive federal state type of support for cannabis, the valuations in those entities move significantly. So there will be a recovery. And remember, he says he's not a betting man. He's very deliberate. Seems to say there will be a recovery. And in the meantime, we'll keep Hawthorne tight and focused on delivering value. And so everyone, you, I, Scott's Miracle-Gro's chief whatever officer, Tier 1 CEOs, Tier 2 CEOs, Tier 3 CEOs, those working at small mom and pop shops that still can't open bank accounts. We're waiting on the DEA to respond, which could be from now until arguably the second half of 2024. Well, at the same time, Schmuck starts talking about the Safer Banking Act. And while he's done that in the past, and it's been nothing but empty promises from then until now, we've never really seen the House Speaker, who was apparently very anti-cannabis, seem like he's on the same page with anything cannabis related during a recent State of the Union, while Safer, according to Don Murphy, has a better chance than ever before. And we could see it from now until July. And so, folks, let me know what you think in the comments, but take from that what you will. I am excited to see what this year brings. It's going to be entertaining as all hell, and I hope you continue to come back and watch the rest of these videos as we basically document this year going forward and what could be one of the most epic bull runs we'll hopefully ever see. But that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'll be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you next week for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care till next time.